everybody, this is Rabbit's Blog and welcome to Requested Videos Week. Today's movie review is on my all-time favorite childhood movie, and that's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This movie was requested to me by BooBob1987, and if you want to check out her channel, the link to her channel is in the description box below. Now on to the movie. Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a part animated, part live-action film that came out in 1988, and was based off the book Who Censored Roger Rabbit by Gary K. Wolfe. The movie was also directed by Robert Zemeckis, and was well known for receiving 4 Academy Awards, including a Best Special Achievement Oscar. Now, before I get into what I loved about this film, I would like to give a brief summary on this film. The movie starts out with Private Eye Detective Eddie Valiant, played by Bob Hoskins, being paid by R.K. Maroon, the famous owner of Maroon Cartoons, to find out about whether or not Jessica Rabbit, who is the wife of cartoon star Roger Rabbit, is having an affair with Marvin Acme. When Eddie Valiant actually provides the evidence that upsets Roger Rabbit in the process, he soon learns that Marvin Acme was brutally murdered, and Roger Rabbit is the prime suspect. However, Eddie soon finds out that Roger Rabbit is being framed for this crime, and he has to find a way to clear Roger's name before Judge Doom, played by Christopher Lloyd, and his team, the Toon Patrol, puts Roger into the dip. Now, as I have mentioned before, this was one of my most favorite childhood movies of all time, and it still is to this very day. There were so many brilliant things that happened in this film that really made me appreciate all the creativity and effort being put into this film. One of the things that really stood out to me in this film was the fact that it was one of the few movies to combine the appearances of both the Disney characters and the Looney Tunes characters into one film. I love the fact that the Disney and the Looney Tunes characters would not just feature in this movie because of their fame, but because they were used to describe the type of world that the film takes place in. It was interesting that this film took place in the 1940s, which really helped set up the historical setting for this film, and since most of the Looney Tunes and Disney characters were created during the 1920s through the 1940s, having them make their appearances in this film really brought out the real-life feel of the 1940s. Probably the best scene I had seen in this movie was the scene where we saw Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny in the same scene together, since it's rare that we ever see the two most iconic cartoon characters appear together in the movie. But the best thing about this movie was the fact that it was in a world where humans and cartoon characters live side by side each other. I found this really interesting because it was rare for me to see a film where the story takes place in a world where humans and cartoon characters live together. And the fact that the cartoon characters are treated something like second-class citizens they usually are seen performing in nightclubs brought a much deeper level to this film than I thought was possible if you consider how society was actually like during the 1940s. It really brought out a kind of creativity that you normally don't see in many part animated films, as the cartoon characters and the humans treat each other like you normally would treat another person. Now on to the characters. Who Framed Roger Rabbit probably had the most interesting characters I had ever seen come out of any film, as all the characters are very well fleshed out and brought so much humor and horror to the story. I really loved the character of Eddie Valiant, as he was shown as being prejudiced towards the cartoon characters because a Toon killed his brother years ago, leading him to drink his life away. I also loved the fact that Eddie wasn't too accepting of Roger Rabbit, and he had to work through his prejudice to accept the cartoon characters, and to me, that really made his situation even more relatable, and it brought so much growth to his character arc as he has to spend time with Roger Rabbit to find out whether or not he was wrong in judging the cartoon characters based on what happened to his brother. Bob Hoskins had done a brilliant job at portraying Eddie's character, as he made Eddie Valiant into a truly realistic and sympathetic character. I also loved the characters Roger Rabbit and Jessica Rabbit, since it made a really cute couple, and I liked the fact that Jessica Rabbit really cared about Roger and would do anything to protect him from any kind of danger. Roger Rabbit was a great character because I loved his relationship with Eddie Valiant, and how he tried to tell Eddie about how Toons live their lives, and that not all Toons are as bad as Eddie made them out to be. I also love the fact that Roger's always so optimistic about life, despite the fact that he was being framed for murder, and that there was evidence that his wife might have been cheating on him. But probably the best character in this movie was none other than Judge Doom, being played brilliantly by Christopher Lloyd. I love the way that Christopher Lloyd made Judge Doom into a truly threatening and frightening character, as Judge Doom would stop at nothing to destroy Roger Rabbit. I also love the fact that Judge Doom had a mysterious motive for his actions, as we don't know much about him, but I think that it really brought so much menace to his character. I also love the scenes where anyone who approaches Judge Doom immediately runs away from him, as it gave him that commanding tone and superiority over anyone he comes across. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is rated PG, and even though the reason for this rating wasn't given, I'm going to safely say that it was for mild language, mild drug references, some sensuality, and some violence. Now, Even though this movie is rated PG, I think that if it was re-released nowadays, it would have been given a PG-13 rating because of the heavy smoking and drinking presented in this film. Also, this film is surprisingly dark for younger viewers, what with the theme of murder being present as the center plot of this film. But once again, since this movie was released in 1988, the PG-13 rating wouldn't have made much of an impact, and many children would want to watch this film because of the numerous cartoon characters popping up. Also, there are some scenes in this movie that might scare younger viewers, especially the scenes with Judge Doom, which I will talk more about in the spoilers section. Overall, I'm giving Who Framed Roger Rabbit a perfect score of a 10 out of 10. This is clearly one of the best mystery films that features cartoon characters in the center of the plot that I had ever seen. The plot was very well developed, the characters were fantastic, and the mixture of cartoon and live-action characters made this movie truly memorable in my eyes. I would highly recommend this film to anyone who is a fan of partly animated mystery films with cartoon characters pulling the plot. Spoiler alert! If you haven't seen this movie, and you don't want to be spoiled, since I'm going to be revealing a huge spoiler for the end of this movie, you might want to skip over this section if you don't want to know what happens at the end of the movie. But if you have seen this movie, or you just want to know my thoughts on these scenes, then keep watching. Now, I had mentioned before that Judge Doom was quite a mysterious character, whose backstory is not quite fleshed out in this film, but to me it worked out so well for this type of film. Since Who Framed Roger Rabbit was presented as a mystery film, not going into too much detail about Judge Doom's background history really made the scene where Judge Doom is actually revealed to be a toon much more satisfying to look at. We had already established at the beginning of the film that Judge Doom was going to be the main villain of this movie, due to the scene where he dunks an innocent toon's shoe into his specialized weapon called the dip, which melts any toon who comes into contact with it. And believe me, this was the scene that scared many fans for years. As for me, I found the toon shoe being dipped to be more disturbing, since I imagined to myself, what if a human being was dunked into the dip? Yeah, that's a really disturbing thought. What we didn't realize was the fact that Judge Doom turned out to be a toon in a human disguise, since the film never really gave us any clues that could suggest that Judge Doom is a toon in disguise. I love the fact that the movie kept us in the dark about Judge Doom's true identity, since it really made Judge Doom's character much scarier and more affected, since we don't know much about why a toon like him would consider destroying Toontown to make a freeway. What also made his reveal as a toon much more frightening was the fact that we don't know what he really looked like when he was hit by the dip and melted, leaving only his human skin behind. Well, that's my movie review on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and be sure to check out more of my videos in the near future. This is Rabbit Blog, and I'll see you later.